Well, a world-famous recording artist released a music video last week for a song with several references to faith and God. Use This Gospel by Eminem includes the lines, "Armed with Jesus, my weapon is prayer." That one well-known Catholic commentator took notice. The Daily Wire's Michael Knowles wrote on social media, quote, "We are living in an age of great spiritual renewal. It doesn't always feel like it, but I am convinced it's happening." And Michael Knowles, who is with the Daily Wire and host of the Michael Knowles Show, joins us now. Michael, welcome back. Great to see you again, as always. Your tweet about spiritual awakenings, it really caught our attention. Can you talk to us more about why you believe we are in a time of spiritual renewal right now?
Well, I can't say that Eminem is my favorite artist of all time. I can't say that I'm totally familiar with hip-hop music and that I listen to it regularly. But this song really caught my ear because I think that it is as much a sign of the times as it is a confession by Eminem. I have no reason not to believe that Eminem is sincere in describing the gospel as his sort of weapon, in describing this sort of intense spiritual combat that he finds himself in. It's worth noting, I think, also that the language that Eminem is using here is not the kind of language of this wishy-washy, milquetoast, kind of sappy 1970s popular hymns. No, he's using language that is really quite intense and traditional. I think it's actually the same sort of impulse that leads young people and young converts and reverts to the faith more to seek the sobriety and reverence and seriousness of something like the traditional Latin Mass more than, say, the kind of 1970s pop songs that are so popular in the Mass of Pope Paul VI. You know, the young people who are drawn back to the faith, they want orthodoxy. They don't want soft soap and wishful thinking. They want the truth. They want the truth unvarnished, and they understand that we are in a spiritual combat. That is what so often leads us back to God. And so I think Eminem is channeling that, and I think that he's very likely sincere in what he's rapping about. But even if he weren't, I think the very fact that such a popular artist as Eminem, or a popular artist like Kanye or any of these other people, the very fact that they are singing and rapping to these sorts of themes tells you that at the very least, these are good businessmen who realize that there is a market out there because there is a deep spiritual yearning as we come out of the malaise of the last 20 years of that ridiculous new atheist movement and the kind of silly, shallow materialism and the bizarre new agey Gnosticism that we've all been subjected to. I think there is a very sincere yearning for people for the truth, for orthodoxy, for the real gospel, and that's because man is fundamentally a religious being. We've had that God-shaped hole in our heart for a very long time, and to deny it, as the culture has tried to do, there is ultimately no way to deny that. As the million people in Poland chanted when Pope John Paul II showed up in the very final days of Soviet communism, "We want God."
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned Eminem and you mentioned Kanye West. Are there any other famous or maybe perhaps unexpected people who are recently professing an interest in faith or God?
There are many, and I think a lot of them aren't even major celebrities, though you have seen this turn. I mean, Kanye West is probably the most important pop star in the world right now, and Kanye West had a very public sort of conversion or reversion to Christianity. But I think more often it's people who do not grab the headlines, but who we've experienced in our own lives. I mean, just anecdotally, there are so many people, friends of mine, family members, who have expressed an interest in maybe going back to church, maybe picking up their Bible, people that you would have never guessed in a million years. And I mention this on TV because I know that probably most, if not everyone who is watching right now, has a similar experience. And the reason I mention the more traditional sort of liturgies, too, is because I can't help but notice I travel all around the country speaking at universities and different sorts of events. And I can't help but notice when I'm traveling and I go to a church, the ones that are really packed to the gills tend to be the more traditional and reverent churches. And they're packed to the gills usually with younger people. You know, when I go to a traditional parish, Very often the median age is 25, and somehow they all still have something like 12 children. I don't even know how that's biologically possible, but it's people who are taking the faith seriously in a way that I think we've seen a neglect of that for maybe half a century now. Well, I think the age of Aquarius is over. I think the days of the hippies are waning, and I think we're finally seeing a return to truth.
Yeah, and Michael, we have probably about a minute left or so, but you mentioned speaking at universities, that is, and I want to talk about something I understand there are some new developments regarding a Catholic college that actually disinvited you from speaking on campus last spring. Can you talk to us more about that and that situation?
Yes, this was a student group at the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota. They wanted to invite me to come give a talk, and the university rejected that invitation and disinvited me from coming. And the irony, of course, is not only that the university allegedly has a free speech policy to allow all sorts of ideas on campus, but the real irony is they disinvited me specifically because I espouse Catholic beliefs. So because I reject the ideology of transgenderism, and I hold, as does the book of Genesis in the very first chapters, as does the Holy Catholic Church, that God created man, male and female, and men and women are different. Because I espouse that view, that was why they disinvited me. So it would seem to me that the University of St. Thomas only pretends to be Catholic, and that when Catholicism comes into conflict with leftism, the University of St. Thomas goes with its true religion, leftism.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Michael, always great to speak with you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.